Have you ever heard of a killer so patient, so methodical, that they waited months, even years, for their victims to die? This is the chilling case of Blanche Taylor Moore, a seemingly sweet Southern woman with a dark obsession, arsenic poisoning. Unlike impulsive killers who act in the heat of the moment, Blanche took her time, carefully lacing her victims' food with poison, watching as they suffered excruciatingly slow deaths, while she played the role of the devoted wife and grieving widow. To outsiders, she was the epitome of a charming Southern belle, a church-going, Bible-quoting woman who spoke softly and carried herself with grace. But behind closed doors, she was a ruthless manipulator, a woman driven by greed, control, and a chilling disregard for human life. Her preferred weapon? Arsenic, a poison so undetectable in the past that it became the signature tool of murderers who wanted their crimes to look like natural deaths. For nearly 2 decades, Blanche Taylor Moore quietly killed the men in her life, husbands, boyfriends, and even a fellow church member, all to gain financial control and rid herself of the people who no longer served her purpose. Stick around as we uncover how Blanche Taylor Moore became one of the most unsuspecting serial killers in American history. Blanche Kaiser was born in 1933 in Concord, North Carolina, into what appeared to be a devoutly religious household. Her father, Parker Kaiser, was a Baptist preacher, but behind the scenes, he was an alcoholic, violent, and deeply abusive man. He ruled over the household with an iron fist, often beating his children while forcing them to recite Bible verses. As a child, Blanche quickly learned how to survive in an environment where appearances mattered more than reality. She became skilled at pretending, hiding her true feelings behind a smile and well-rehearsed charm. She also learned how to manipulate people, using kindness, tears, and guilt to get what she wanted. Blanche married James Napoleon Taylor, a hardworking furniture salesman, in 1952. To outsiders, they were the picture of a happy Southern couple, church-going, family-oriented, and respected in their community. They had 2 children, and by all accounts, James was a devoted husband and father. But behind closed doors, Blanche was dissatisfied. She wanted more money, more excitement, more control. And in 1973, after nearly 2 decades of marriage, James suddenly became gravely ill. He developed excruciating stomach pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and severe weakness. His doctors were baffled. His symptoms mimicked everything from food poisoning to cancer. Blanche stood dutifully by his side, caring for him, feeding him, and making sure he took his medicine. But his condition only worsened. For months, James suffered. He was in constant pain, unable to eat, and growing weaker by the day. And then, after months of agony, James Taylor died at just 45 years old. The cause of death? Heart failure, according to his death certificate. No one suspected a thing. Blanche was now free to move on, and she wasted no time doing so. By the late 1970s, she was working as a cashier at Kroger grocery store in Burlington, North Carolina. There, she met Raymond Reed, the store's manager. Raymond was a well-liked, financially stable man, and before long, he and Blanche were inseparable. Blanche was charming, affectionate, and completely devoted to him. At least, that's what he thought. But Blanche had one problem. Raymond refused to marry her. He enjoyed their relationship, but wasn't ready to commit financially. And then, In 1985, something strange happened. Raymond suddenly fell ill. He began suffering from crippling stomach pain, nausea, and muscle weakness, symptoms so severe that he was eventually hospitalized. He spent months deteriorating while Blanche played the role of the loving girlfriend, bringing him food, spooning him medicine, and ensuring he had everything he needed. Doctors were stumped. His symptoms were eerily similar to those that had killed James Taylor more than a decade earlier. Yet no one made the connection. In October 1986, after nearly a year of agony, Raymond died at just 50 years old. His cause of death, heart failure. Once again, Blanche emerged as the grieving woman who had lost another partner to tragedy. Blanche moved on again, this time setting her sights on a wealthy retired pastor named Dwight Moore. Dwight was exactly what Blanche wanted. Financially secure, respected in the community, and willing to commit to her. They quickly became engaged, and in 1989, they set a wedding date. But then just days before their wedding, Dwight suddenly fell ill. At first, it seemed like a minor stomach bug, but as days passed, his symptoms worsened dramatically. Crippling nausea, muscle pain, slurred speech, and an inability to move his limbs. By the time Dwight was hospitalized, doctors were horrified by what they found. His body was filled with arsenic. In fact, his arsenic levels were so high that it was a miracle he was still alive. For the first time, someone started asking questions. Investigators began digging into Blanche's past, and what they uncovered was a chilling pattern. Husbands, boyfriends, even fellow church members who had mysteriously died after being cared for by Blanche. Authorities exhumed the bodies of James Taylor and Raymond Reed, and when forensic tests came back, the truth was undeniable. They had been poisoned with lethal doses of arsenic. Blanche had spent years slowly killing the men in her life, slipping poison into their tea, pudding, and meals, watching as they grew weaker and weaker. Blanche was arrested in 1990, and her trial became a media sensation. The prosecution painted her as a cold, manipulative killer who had murdered for financial gain and personal control. In 1991, she was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Today, Blanche Taylor Moore is still alive, sitting on death row in North Carolina, making her one of the oldest women in America, still awaiting execution. What made Blanche Taylor Moore so terrifying was that no one suspected her. She wasn't a masked killer lurking in the dark. She was a church-going grandmother who smiled as she served you tea. She played the role of devoted wife, grieving widow, and caring partner, all while slowly poisoning the men who trusted her most. Was Blanche Taylor Moore a criminal mastermind who killed for profit? Or was she a woman who got caught up in her own deadly game of greed? Let us know in the comments. If you found this deep dive compelling, subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories.